Your reactions expose weakness. Silence is dominance. Every time you explain, defend, or react, you surrender power to people selecting you for slaughter. You believe life is happening in conversations, arguments, explanations. That belief is the trap. The battlefield is not what's being said, it's who reacts. Every environment you move through, work, relationships, social spaces, online arenas, is a hierarchy under constant stress testing. People are not listening to understand you. They are watching to measure you. Reaction is data. Tone is data. Speed is data. Emotion is data. And you are leaking all of it. You were taught that speaking up is strength, that defending yourself is integrity, that explaining your position earns respect. Those teachings were designed for cooperative systems that no longer exist. In predatory systems, explanation is submission. Here is the lens shift you must accept or remain controllable. Whoever reacts first loses positional authority. Reaction places you downstream. It means something external set your internal state. That alone signals inferiority. Power does not announce itself, justify itself, or rush to correct perception. Power lets perception hang. It allows misunderstanding. It tolerates hostility without flinching. You've been conditioned to fear silence. Silence feels like loss because you were trained to associate value with visibility and noise. But silence is not absence, it's withheld force. It creates asymmetry. The one who speaks reveals strategy. The one who stays silent gathers intelligence. Right now, your enemies, yes, enemies are not attacking you directly. They are pinging you, small provocations, side comments, delays, disrespect masked as humor, public slights, online bait. These are not accidents, they are probes. They are checking whether you are reactive prey or sovereign threat. And you keep answering. Every reaction confirms three things about you. You can be moved. You are emotionally invested. You are playing defense. Defense is weakness. Defense admits the frame belongs to someone else. You think reacting restores balance. In reality, it shifts balance against you. The moment you respond, the other side gains rhythm. They now control tempo. They escalate or withdraw at will because they know where your nerves are exposed. Powerful men are not unbothered. They are unavailable. Unavailability is not indifference. It is dominance through refusal. Refusal to engage. Refusal to clarify. Refusal to correct. Refusal to perform emotional labor for hostile observers. This is why silence unsettles people. It denies feedback. It removes the reward. It forces them to sit with uncertainty, something weak, manipulative, or insecure people cannot tolerate. Understand this clearly. Most provocations are not about winning an argument. They are about extracting reaction. Reaction feeds relevance. Reaction validates existence. When you react, you give them energy, status, and narrative control. The modern man has been engineered to overreact. Notifications, outrage cycles, callouts, speak your truth. All of it trains instant emotional discharge. That makes you predictable. Predictability makes you manageable. Silence breaks prediction. This chapter is not telling you to be calm or be mature. Those are moral frames. This is strategic. You are learning to relocate power from expression to restraint. Once you see the battlefield correctly, you stop mistaking noise for influence. You stop thinking the loudest man is the strongest. You begin to notice who speaks last, who doesn't explain, who isn't rushed, who lets others orbit his stillness. That man is not passive. He is dangerous because nothing external controls his internal state. This is the foundation. Without this lens shift, every tactic that follows will fail. You cannot use silence as a weapon if you still believe reacting is virtue. Drop that belief. The war is not about being heard. It's about who cannot move you. Reaction is not accidental, it is engineered. Every system that benefits from controlling you understands one truth: emotion precedes obedience. Before they can steer your behavior, they must first hijack your nervous system. Reaction is the entry point. Provocation is not an insult, it is a mechanism, a lever pulled to see what moves. When someone needles you, disrespects you, ignores you, delays you, mocks you, or subtly undermines you, they are not being rude. They are testing for access. They want to know whether your internal state is guarded or porous, whether you are sovereign or open territory. The reaction trap works because it exploits ego and fairness instincts. You feel the impulse to correct the record, restore status, or reclaim dignity. That impulse feels righteous. It feels justified. That's why it works. But righteousness is irrelevant in power dynamics. The moment you react, you accept their frame. You signal that their action mattered enough to alter you. That is extraction, not the words, not the outcome, the movement. This is why manipulators escalate when you react calmly. Calm reaction is still reaction. It tells them the lever exists. They pull harder next time. Louder, publicly, personally. They don't stop because they are not seeking resolution. They are seeking confirmation of influence. Understand this. People who provoke you are not interested in your response. They are interested in your loss of composure. Even anger isn't the primary reward. Attention is. Engagement is. The knowledge that they can reach inside you on command. Reaction collapses hierarchy. It places you at eye level with people who should not have access to you. Silence maintains altitude. Altitude frustrates predators. Look at animals. Predators do not chase what doesn't flinch. They target movement. Reaction marks you as worth pursuing. Stillness forces recalculation. The reaction trap also binds you to cycles. One response demands another. One explanation invites rebuttal. One defense requires clarification. Before you realize it, you are trapped in an endless loop, burning time, emotional energy, and focus on people who gain status simply by pulling you off center. This is how weak men are farmed. They live in reaction loops, arguments, comment wars, relationship negotiations, office politics, always explaining, always clarifying, always justifying, always tired, always confused why nothing improves. Because reaction never resolves power imbalance, it cements it. Here is the brutal inversion you must accept. The more you explain yourself, the less authority you possess. Authority does not persuade, it assumes. It does not chase agreement, it allows dissent without engagement. Reaction also exposes your values hierarchy. What angers you reveals what you prioritize. What offends you shows where your identity is fragile. Observers catalog this. They learn where to strike next. Silence starves that intelligence. You think staying silent means losing. That belief was installed to keep you responsive. In reality, silence forces the other side to burn energy. They escalate, repeat, exaggerate. They expose desperation. They reveal intention. You gain clarity while remaining untouched. The trap only works if you believe you owe access. You don't. Power begins the moment you internalize this rule. Not every stimulus deserves a response. Most do not. And the strongest position is not winning the exchange. It is refusing the exchange entirely. This chapter implants suspicion toward your own impulses. That pause you feel before reacting. That discomfort. That is the moment sovereignty is available. Most men surrender it instantly. You will not. Because once you see the reaction trap, you realize something unsettling. Most people around you are not interacting with you. They are using you as a mirror to regulate themselves. Silence shatters that mirror, and men who remove themselves from regulation cycles become uncontrollable. That is why this matters. You don't need to guess who will react. They advertise it. Weakness has patterns, predictable ones. And once you can see them, you realize how easily men are sorted, ranked, and exploited without ever being told they're in a hierarchy. The first archetype is the explainer. This man believes clarity earns respect. When challenged, he overdelivers context. He stacks logic, he speaks faster, he fills silence. He thinks if he just explains better, the threat will dissolve. It never does. Every explanation invites another question, another doubt, another test. He is not respected, he is mined. The explainer is useful because he leaks his thinking. Strategy, insecurity, values, everything spills. He feels intelligent, yet remains controlled. The second archetype is the defender. This man reacts to perceived disrespect instantly. Tone changes, chest tightens, words sharpen. He believes aggression restores status. In reality, it exposes volatility. Others learn how to steer him with minimal effort. A single comment can hijack his day. He feels powerful while being utterly predictable. The defender confuses emotional intensity with dominance. Predators love him because he escalates himself into exhaustion. The third archetype is the moralizer. This man frames everything as right versus wrong. He reacts not to threats, but to violations of how things should be. He lectures, he corrects, he calls out. He believes virtue is leverage. It isn't. Morality without power is decoration. The moralizer hands authority to anyone willing to ignore ethics. He loses because he assumes shared rules in an environment with none. The fourth archetype is the pleaser. This man reacts through accommodation. He softens language, he clarifies intent, he apologizes preemptively. He fears being misunderstood more than being dominated. He believes harmony equals safety. What he gets instead is slow erasure. He is not attack-edged, he is bypassed. Pleasers are invisible until need. Then discarded. The fifth archetype is the performer. This man reacts publicly, online, in groups. He needs validation. He crafts responses not to neutralize threats but to be seen reacting correctly. Likes, nods, approval, these are his currency. He becomes enslaved to audience expectation. His positions shift based on applause. He calls it adaptability. It's submission. Each archetype shares one fatal flaw: compulsion. They cannot not respond. That inability is what marks them for manipulation. Once someone identifies your archetype, interaction becomes mechanical. Press here, you explode. Press there, you explain. Press again, you appease. No malice required, just observation. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You have occupied at least one of these archetypes, probably more. Most men rotate between them depending on environment. That doesn't make you stupid, it makes you trained. Training can be reversed. But first, you must abandon the fantasy that reaction is expression of self. Reaction is exposure of self. And exposure in hostile systems is not authenticity, it's vulnerability. Strong men do not need archetypes because they are unreadable. Their behavior is not governed by impulse, emotion, or moral reflex. It is governed by position. They speak when it advances leverage. They remain silent when others would bleed. This chapter is not meant to shame you, Shame is useless. This is meant to strip you of denial. Once you see the archetypes, you will start seeing them everywhere. Meetings, relationships, online discourse, family gatherings. You will also notice something else. The men at the top do not argue, they do not explain, they do not defend, they do not moralize, they do not please, they do not perform. They observe, they wait, they choose. And when they finally speak, it is brief, decisive, and unquestioned. That is not personality. That is selection. Once you stop reacting, something shifts, and not in your favor at first. Silence does not pacify hostile systems, it threatens them. Understand this clearly. Many people do not interact to exchange information. They interact to stabilize their position in a hierarchy. Your reaction reassures them of where they stand relative to you. When that reaction disappears, their internal map collapses. This is why escalation follows silence. They repeat the provocation. Louder, more personal, more public. They sharpen the blade, not because they are confident, but because they are uncertain. Uncertainty is intolerable to insecure hierarchies. It must be resolved even at a cost. History is full of this pattern. Empires did not fall because of external attack alone. They collapsed when internal actors lost the ability to extract obedience. When subjects stopped responding, stopped fearing, stopped praising, stopped rebelling, the system starved. No reaction meant no leverage. Tyranny survives on noise, on participation, on outrage, on compliance disguised as resistance. Silence is subversive because it cannot be framed. This is why manipulators escalate emotionally. They move from sarcasm to insult, from subtle disrespect to open challenge, from private pressure to public spectacle. They are trying to force you back into the game. They need you inside the arena. Human nature explains why. Most people cannot tolerate asymmetry. When they invest emotional energy and receive nothing back, it creates psychological debt. That debt demands resolution. They will chase it. They will overextend. They will expose themselves trying to rebalance the exchange. Silence weaponizes this flaw. But here is the danger you must be warned about. Escalation is the filter. Many men break here. They misinterpret escalation as proof that silence isn't working. They panic. They respond. They snap back. They defend. They re-enter the loop, and the system closes around them again, stronger this time because now their silence has been mapped. This is why most men never reach sovereignty. They cannot withstand the pressure phase. Selection is not about intelligence. It is about endurance under ambiguity. The man who can remain silent while being misrepresented, misunderstood, provoked, or doubted gains a terrifying advantage. He forces others to reveal intent. The louder they become, the clearer the threat landscape becomes. Noise is confession. Watch what happens when you do not react. People contradict themselves. Allies reveal conditions. Enemies overplay. Manipulators lose finesse. Weak men choose sides prematurely. All of this information arrives free, without you saying a word. This is why silence feels dangerous. It gives you no immediate emotional payoff, no release, no validation, just pressure. Most men are addicted to release. They choose short-term relief over long-term leverage. Power requires the opposite choice. Silence is not passive. It is strategic starvation. You are depriving the system of the only thing it can feed on, your response. Eventually, escalation either collapses into exposure or retreats into avoidance. Both outcomes favor you, but only if you do not flinch. This chapter exists to harden you against the moment when pressure increases, when the instinct to do something screams the loudest. That moment is the threshold. Cross it without reacting, and you separate yourself from the mass of men who can be controlled by stimulus alone. Fail and nothing changes. This is the cost of non-participation. This is why it is rare. This is why it works. Silence without strategy is avoidance. Silence with intention is control. This is where most men misunderstand the tactic and fail. They go quiet emotionally but not positionally. They withdraw without recalibrating behavior. They disappear without redesigning leverage. That is not power, it is retreat. Strategic silence is selective denial. You are not muting everything. You are refusing access where access weakens you, and granting it only where it compounds authority. The first rule: silence must be visible. Disappearing entirely invites dismissal. Strategic silence is felt, not hidden. You remain present, functional, observant, but unresponsive to provocation. This creates tension. Tension creates hierarchy. The second rule: silence must be consistent. One reaction breaks the frame. Consistency trains others faster than explanation ever could. People learn your boundaries not through words but through repeated non-engagement. The pattern becomes law. The third rule: silence must be asymmetric. You do not respond equally to everyone. You respond upward, not downward. You speak to those who can alter outcomes, not those seeking emotional extraction. This instantly reorders perceived status. This is how power actually moves, quietly, unevenly, without apology. When you deploy silence correctly, three things happen simultaneously. First, others begin to fill the vacuum. They speculate, they interpret, they project. Some assume confidence, some assume threat, some assume guilt. None of that matters. What matters is that they are now working around you instead of pulling you into them. Second, your words increase in value. Scarcity creates weight. When you speak rarely, each sentence lands heavier. You stop needing to persuade because your speech signals intention, not emotion. Third, your nervous system recalibrates. You stop chasing closure. You stop craving resolution. You stop needing to be understood. That internal shift is visible. People feel it before they can explain it. This is where men make a fatal mistake. They use silence to punish. Punitive silence is emotional. It leaks resentment. It invites escalation. Strategic silence is cold, neutral, devoid of explanation. No theatrics, no announcements, no statements of intent. You do not say, "I'm not reacting." You simply don't. You also do not justify your silence afterward. Explanation retroactively restores access. Once you speak to defend your silence, you have already lost its advantage. Silence is strongest when it feels inevitable. There will be moments where silence must be broken. Strategic silence is not muteness, it is timing. When you speak briefly. You speak factually. You speak without emotional coloration. You speak once. Then you return to silence. This rhythm conditions respect. Understand this clearly. Silence is not about winning social points. It is about reclaiming authorship of your internal state. You decide when interaction occurs. You decide the terms. You decide the exit. That decision alone elevates you above men who live in perpetual response mode. The men who master this are often labeled cold, arrogant, distant, or difficult. Those labels are not warnings. They are signals that the tactic is working. Weak systems vilify what they cannot access. This chapter is not offering comfort. It is offering a behavioral weapon. Use it incorrectly and you isolate yourself. Use it correctly and you become unmovable. Most men will never attempt this. Silence requires self-trust. It requires tolerance for being misread. It requires the strength to let others sit in discomfort without rescuing them. That strength is rare, and rarity is power. You cannot carry silence while protecting your old self-image. One of them must die. The reactive identity feels familiar because it has been reinforced your entire life. The man who explains, defends, corrects, reacts. He believes he is maintaining dignity. In reality, he is maintaining access. And access is the opposite of sovereignty. This chapter is not about improvement. It is about removal. The first thing to kill is the need to be understood. That need is not innocent. It is a dependency. It binds you to the perceptions of others and hands them leverage over your internal state. The moment you require understanding, you invite negotiation. Negotiation requires equality. Equality collapses hierarchy. Power does not negotiate identity. It assumes it. The second thing kill is the belief that silence equals loss. This belief was installed to keep you visible, vocal, and emotionally available. It trained you to equate action with worth. But in hostile environments, action without advantage is exposure. Silence is not inaction. It is withheld action. The third thing to kill is emotional reflex. Reflex is speed without choice. It is the body responding before strategy has time to intervene. Reflexive men are fast, but slow men control outcomes. You are not becoming slower. You are becoming deliberate. This identity death will feel unnatural at first. That is the point. Evolution does not feel comfortable. Selection does not ask for permission. There will be moments where your silence feels like self-betrayal, where your mind screams to speak, to correct, to respond. That voice is not intuition. It is conditioning. It is the dying echo of a version of you designed for cooperation, not survival. Let it die. The replacement identity is not loud. It is not expressive. It does not perform strength. It embodies it. This man does not rush to define himself. He allows others to guess. He does not chase clarity. He allows ambiguity. He does not fear being misinterpreted. He understands that misinterpretation filters access. Only those with patience, intelligence, or authority reach him. This is how elites are formed, not by talent alone, but by selective availability. You will notice a shift once this identity stabilizes. Interactions slow down. People choose words more carefully. Provocations decrease or become clumsy. Some relationships dissolve entirely. That is not loss. That is sorting. Identity death always triggers environmental reorganization. Men who cannot extract reaction from you will leave. Men who benefited from your availability will resent you. Men who respect power will adjust. You are not becoming antisocial. You are becoming unexploitable. This is the line most men never cross. They flirt with silence but cling to the old identity underneath. That contradiction leaks. Others feel it. The tactic fails. You must choose. Either you remain the man who reacts and is included everywhere, or you become the man who is not easily accessed and therefore cannot be used. There is no middle ground. The old identity will try to bargain. Ignore it. Identity does not negotiate, it is replaced. And once replaced, there is no return. Reactivity becomes repulsive. Explanation feels humiliating. Defense feels beneath you. Not because you are superior, but because you are no longer available. That is the final transformation. This is the final filter. Everything you've heard so far collapses into one unavoidable truth. Most men will not do this, not because they can't, but because they won't pay the price. Silence costs you comfort. It costs you approval. It costs you inclusion. And that is exactly why it works. The world is not designed to reward sovereignty. It is designed to extract participation. Systems feed on reaction. Groups feed on compliance. Weak people feed on access. The moment you stop reacting, you stop feeding them, and they notice. This is where the final pressure appears: social punishment. You will be labeled difficult, cold, arrogant, detached, insecure, changed. These labels are not analysis, they are weapons. They exist to pull you back into responsiveness, to shame you into re-engagement, to make silence feel dangerous. It is. What is dangerous is remaining legible in a hostile environment. Legibility makes you predictable. Predictability makes you manageable. Manageable men are not selected, they are used. Selection favors men who cannot be easily read, moved, or emotionally accessed. Men whose internal state does not fluctuate with external noise. Men who do not rush to prove anything. This is the elite divide. On one side, men who live in constant reaction, endlessly explaining themselves, arguing for relevance, negotiating respect they never receive. On the other, men who speak rarely, act decisively, and let absence do most of the work. There is no bridge between these worlds. You cross by withdrawing, not advancing. Understand this clearly. Silence will not make everyone respect you. That is not the goal. Silence removes you from the economy of validation entirely. It places you outside the reach of those who trade in emotion, outrage, and control. Some doors will close permanently. Good. Those doors led to rooms where you were always being measured, tested, extracted from, where your reactions were currency and your peace was the cost. You are not meant to be everywhere. You are meant to be untouchable where it matters. This is the final warning. If you half commit, you will suffer the costs without gaining the leverage. Strategic silence is not a phase. It is not a tactic you try. It is an identity you adopt fully or not at all. Men who hesitate here return to reactivity with deeper resentment. They become louder, angrier, more desperate for recognition. Why decay? Men who cross the line accept something most cannot. They will be misunderstood, and they will not correct it. They will be doubted, and they will not defend themselves. They will be provoked, and they will not respond. That refusal is not weakness. It is sovereignty. This is not advice for social harmony. It is instruction for survival in environments that reward control, not virtue. You now know the rule. React and remain visible, usable and replaceable. Or withdraw and become scarce, unpredictable and powerful. There is nothing more to add. The rest is selection.